Welcome to episode 40 of Confessions of an SEO. This is Carolyn Holzman. Congratulations, you found the least tactical SEO podcast on the planet. And today I may be pushing that envelope yet again. But this is where you should find the people side of SEO. Agnostic information concerning SEO from someone who's been there on both sides. A brick and mortar business of over 28 years, just trying to get more business, and now a reformed client SEO of 12 years, and a seriously seeking SEO researcher and tester. When it comes to client SEO, I believe the farmer and the cowboy should be friends, that there are mutual revenue opportunities when we understand each other's work better. So, if you're an SEO, you can bask in an SEO oasis where your profession is respected. And if you're a business owner or a C-suite executive working with an SEO marketing group, I hope you hear something that will both illuminate greater understanding and respect for the SEOs you're working with, and something that helps you understand and evaluate the SEO work from an informed position. Okay, I think I got that out. Well, welcome again to Confessions of an SEO. This is a big week in the Google index detector where we got to at least 3 days in a row of indexing, and I wanted to tell the whole world to hit the publish button. Okay, so today is going to be a confession. I confess that some may not like what I have to say, and I may take a lot of time saying it. So if you're not an SEO or a business owner that desires to get new business from your website, if you want to check out on this episode, I will miss you dearly, and I can assure you that you won't be missing anything essential if you're just here for the view. And now is the time, because it's not going to get any easier from here onwards. So I'll wait while you get the kids out of the room. All right. So today I'm going to not only revisit the topic of core web vitals, I'm going to share some potentially explosive news that if you're an SEO or a business owner working on your own SEO or managing an SEO company, you probably are going to have some emotional responses to this information. And I want to let you know I respect that. If you're selling core web vitals or CWV as a service, I'm going to ask you to at least give this information consideration. On Confessions of an SEO in a June podcast, I talked about what I thought in general about core web vitals. Basically, that this is the equivalent of chasing the green lights in Yoast. That if you have green lights, you're done, you're safe, you should be ranking number one. Turns out that I may have been more right than even I thought at the time. So if you look for it, it's called Super Chill Summer SEO. It's about 10 minutes long, but this is going to be an update. Now, by the time you hear this, I promise I will have published the article on my site about last week's SEO Fight Club. And just this week, John Muller confirmed Core Web Vitals is live everywhere as of the end of August. I will put all the links in the description so you can take a look at the article, look at John Muller's talk, because some of this can only be absorbed if you have what's called visualized data. That's technical talk for a pretty picture made from the data. All right, enough delay. If you're an SEO, you really must have heard by now about Google's new page experience section in the Search Console. It's called Core Web Vitals, or it's known by its initials, CWV. So how should I say this? All right. If you try to explore Core Web Vitals online, like what other people are talking about and with the discussions in various groups, I'm going to describe to you something, and it's a story. So it reminds me of the time I told my normally very caring husband that one of our friends was involved in a car accident while he was delivering cookies. The person who was injured was delivering cookies. I wanted to communicate that someone that we cared about was injured, and he might want to reach out to him and his initial response was, "What kind of cookies?" Now, he really is a caring, kind man, but it was a funny moment, and as you can tell, I have not let him live it down yet. Well, that's kind of how most core web vital discussions go, and I get it. The community of SEOs and tech SEOs, we're all, for the most part, I think, we're all problem solvers. We love a puzzle, an opportunity to tinker and tweak. So you'll find lots of articles on what core web vitals is, as if knowing the pieces contained within core web vitals is the same as knowing that it has an impact on rankings, and we act like it's a thing. I agree. We all understand the need for site speed up to a point, but this seems like a reach if we're going to only take Google's word for it. Because what is being heavily pushed is the concept that if your pages score better with their core web vital scores, if they're really high, and you find them in Search Console, then if those are high, then your pages should rank better. So aside from all the Google announcements, the question that we all seem to have is, what evidence is out there that tells us that this is an actual thing happening? And just for the moment, let's consider, what if there is no there right now? I'm all for community effort, but I'm wondering where all the healthy skepticism disappeared to. I mean, we can't all agree to a community health response in a pandemic when there's actual death. But when it comes to core web vitals, we're all scrambling to get green scores. I feel like George Carlin here. Which is why I was so struck by the information in the latest SEO Fight Club show that I wanted to share it. I wanted to amplify it. So I hope you will indulge me, because I think this will matter for you. So now, in this episode, Core Web Vitals was gathered and analyzed by Lee Witcher, arguably one of the first independent SEO researchers who spent the last 3 years building a trove of SEO tests designed to tease out of the Google algorithm clues to create essentially a competitive advantage in SEO. Now, the type of analysis Lee did would be difficult, if not impossible, to do without an essential SEO tool developed by, wait for it, Ted Kubitis. He is the developer of Quora SEO software. I've mentioned this before. He's like the SEO's SEO equivalent of Ginsu knives. But wait, there's more. He's pioneered competitive intelligence analysis to basically fuel what he calls a scientific, data-driven approach to SEO, which is really why he's been so successful for so long in SEO. Now with Quora, you can run a keyword search, pull back the top 100 results along with various on and off page factors for each one of these URLs. And we're talking like it's almost 1,000 factors. And some factors you would need to hook up APIs to them, like DOM Detailer, but for even without the APIs, what you get back is impressive and daunting. So if you want to take a look at it, I always, because we're on audio, if you're familiar with bit.ly links, it's bit.ly/ and Confessions Quora, all one word. And he's got a deal if you want to try it out. Now, what's so great about this is Ted even provides a live training with him. It's a group, but it's live with Ted, where you can get set up and know you're getting, when you run your first Quora report, you're really sort of bound off with full success. Now it's both for Mac and PC. Yay! So, getting back to the show. Lee took his box of rocks search phrases. Now these are search phrases he's been gathering data on for the last 3 years. And it's about 40 keyword searches over 40 niches. and it covers a wide range of intent. So it's from commercial to informational, from very highly competitive terms to very low competition terms, to kind of give you a sort of feel for what it might be out there, like a sampling of things. So if you take a look at the article on American Way Media, I have screenshots so you can see what I'm talking about. They'll be in isolation, but I highly recommend you also watch the show as well. I'll put a link, I'll put the video on the page too, because I think this kind of information needs more than one learning modality to really absorb it. So the idea being that if Core Web Vitals is live in the system, then pages with better scores should rank above, kind of like be at the top of the search of other pages that have low scores. And conversely, those with low scores should rank lower in the search result pages. So he ran 40 searches in Quora to collect the top 100 results for each search. And yes, that would be like 4,000 URLs. He then collected the Core Web Vitals for each of these 4,000 URLs. And then he did his little math magic, which is really, they call it, correlation formula, comparing their position in the search results against the Core Web Vital score. Now, if you're like me, sometimes when words like correlation coefficients get thrown around, I start to need a scorecard. So one, I know what's going on, and two, I can keep up. Which is why, again, I'm going to have a link to the article in the description so you can see all this. But here's what was really inspiring. I watched airy-fairy concepts like Core Web Vitals get pulled down into the mud of a real-life search result and asked to show itself. I may go dangerously close to attempt to describing a color here, but when you accept that there are mathy ways to take a number and a rank position and put it into an equation and come up with yet a new number, then this starts to make practical sense, because these newly calculated numbers, if you plot them on an XY grid, yes, just like what we did in school, but this time, and you'll see this in the article, this time there's a red line at where on the left-hand side it says 2.0. So anything that tracks above 2.0 is where things move from being random into what they call statistical significance. Hey, so if you're with me, still great work. Give yourself a treat. I know I'm going to grab a cookie. So the long and short of it, with actual data, he was able to graph each piece of the Core Web Vitals, all the components. Now there are 3 plus a composite score. And again, this will all make sense if you look at the article. But here's what I want to tell you. I don't have a drum roll, but I will tell you that not a single one of them showed anything other than randomness. It was a total nothing burger. Now, while on one hand, that's like concerning, on the other hand, it is super cool and useful. If you redesigned your entire website to make it faster so your Core Web Vital scores are better, so that when someone at a bus stop with a lousy, aged-out cell phone looks for what you do, you might be seen, I'm sorry. And it's understandable that someone would feel like that's what they had to do, because there are so many tools out there that offer ways to measure your Core Web Vitals. It's hard to imagine that, based on anything other than what Google said, that they felt they were justified investing in that feature. Now, I'm sure there are reasons. I'm just saying I don't think it came from anything they saw in Core Web Vitals. And I don't think anyone is saying that, Core Web Vitals isn't going to be made into a thing. But the question is it a thing that demands the amount of time, money, and attention that it's been getting, when what you might need to do is simply change your theme if you get a little spinny thing before you see any page content? And that part will make sense when you watch the Fight Club show. And after seeing this data and reading John Muller's explanation that Core Web Vitals is not going to be responsible for sudden and deep drops in ranking, that kind of makes sense to me. Now, I do know, because I know Lee, he's going to rerun this data again in about 6 months or so, because if and when Core Web Vitals starts to make a difference in ranking, if it ever does, that is how we're going to see it, and that is how we're going to know it's a thing. I don't know about you, but that's pretty exciting to me. All right, you've done great. We're going to stop here today. Thank you for listening. Send in any questions and comments to confessions@AmericanWayMedia.com. And by the way, this type of content comes directly out of the strength of an SEO testing community. If you don't know what SEO testing is, it's just like the science tests that we did in junior high. Set up a hypothesis, set up your test, run it, take your results, and write your summary. Now, right now, as of this broadcast, you can still apply to be a tester if you are a member of IMG. That's Internet Marketing Gold. Now, to check it out, you can go to that bit.ly/SEO friends. And if you get in there, come find me. And another thing that came out of the SEO testing community is the Google Index Detector that I mentioned at the beginning. It's a page where I share the latest data from an indexation project that I'm working on. And you can find updates on Twitter. I'm starting to use the hashtag Google Index Stakeout. And of course, the easiest thing to do is to bookmark the page. All you do is go to AmericanWayMedia.com and you'll find the Google Index Detector page right there. Thank you for subscribing to the podcast wherever you're listening to it. And if you haven't done so already, please do. And let your friends know about Confessions. You can share it with colleagues or business owners. Copy the URL of the episode. It's on Amazon Podcast, Alexa, Spotify, anywhere that you get podcasts. And if you haven't settled on your one source for your podcast, you can just Google Confessions of an SEO. You can't miss it. We all stand to make more business and success together when both the SEOs and the business owners understand each other better. It's been my pleasure to be your host. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you in the SERPs.